Okay. Okay. We're live. There we go. There we go. We got it. We got it. Okay, everyone. Welcome. Sorry for the lateness. Um, we had to finish up our Love and Rage tonight talk. So I know some of you all joining us for this talk as well. So it's just like we're gonna keep moving on and on and on and on. Next week it'll be Lama Justin and I offering the talk, and I think we'll start earlier as well as we send Justin off for his retreat, his 2 month, this is the 2 month retreat. So we won't see him again until the summer. So till then, you have to deal with me, yeah, and all of my weirdness. So thank you all for your patience as well. We'll do a short practice, just something short. But yeah, I've been, a lot has been on my mind today. I've just been moving through a lot of different teachings and a couple of different practices. I had some personal stuff come up today, which I had to tend to. So just like feeling all of that, feeling into it, of course, calling in, all the support that I need. Um, I keep thinking about when I, there's just, when I go through experiences, particularly a lot of like grief and heartbreak and stuff. My teachers and guides and ancestors and so forth, they always send me messages and images and visions, or I get directed towards something, some type of like dharma. We talked about, many of you are familiar with the seven homecomings, and some, in the seven homecomings, the second homecoming is dharma, or what I call wisdom, the wisdom texts. And the wisdom text can be any piece, any artifact that helps us to experience clarity, And so a lot of that for me is art, performance art, dance, poetry, literature, visual arts. Like my personal space, is just full of just, different things that remind me to be clear, compassionate, and open. And, there are scenes from movies and plays and performances that like I just go back to over and over again. There are scenes from like so many things that I rely on. I talk about all of this in Love and Rage as well, so I'm kind of just repeating things, but there are just things within the writings of some of my favorite poets. One of my favorite plays is Angels in America, which I've studied a lot of like queer, kind of queer theology in the past, and like queer Dharma, but Dharma doesn't have some of these things that um, like radical liberation theologists and queer theologists have developed over the centuries and so forth. But so like Angels in America is like a piece of art, that helps me to develop clarity, helps me to do emotional grief work, and so many things, So the thing that I was pointed towards today is Toni Morrison, and Toni Morrison is often one of she shows up as a teacher and a guide. She shows up in, of course, the wisdom text Dharma. For me, she also shows up as an ancestor and as a lineage, as a member of my lineage too. So Toni Morrison is one of those beings that shows up across my seven homecomings practice. But I was pointed towards Beloved, her novel Beloved, particularly the scene in Beloved where so Mama Shug, a baby Shugs, in the book, um, is preaching in the clearing in the woods. Now, I talk about this in Love and Rage, so if you want to go back and reference this, I talk about this in the emotional labor section. I reference Beloved and Mama Shugs. In the movie, Baby Shugs is played by Bea Richards. And Bea Richards was not just an actor, she was also a playwright, poet, activist. She was involved in like early like black Marxist organizing in New York. She was also a really powerful teacher. She there were stories of her, having these abilities, and it's really interesting, But Richards was Baby Shug's um, and beloved, and you've seen her across so many different. She's been nominated for all the major awards, and she's including Oscar and Emmys, and um, I think you would recognize her because she's been in a lot of like famous, well-known movies. But anyhow, um, as also a really interesting intersection as Bea Richards is also was a powerful teacher in life. She's also playing this matriarch teacher healer within the movie, you know. But in that scene that I'm thinking about that I was led to, she calls, the movie takes place, um, uh, probably 1840s, 1850s. Slavery is still going. She escaped slavery and came to Cincinnati, and she was followed by her daughter, her grandkids, and so forth. I don't want to give it away for those of you who are familiar with the story, but when she gets to Cincinnati, she's taken care of, and she becomes like the community elder. As one of her responsibilities, she calls, on Sundays, which is really interesting as a female preacher, elder, shaman in that community. She calls members of the black community into the forest every Sunday, and she has, where she preaches, and it's always different, but the scene that we see in the movie is that she calls, the women, the children, and the men all to actually practice emotional labor, for themselves and for everyone gathered. And it's a really, really beautiful scene. And at the end of that scene, she gives a sermon where she talks about loving our flesh. That the world, she says, the world out yonder does not love our flesh. But we have to. We have to love our flesh. And she asked them to raise their hands and to hold their hands and to kiss. And to kiss their hands. And which is, of course, a symbol of like kissing the body, of touching the body, right? And she says, love your body, love your hands, love your flesh. This is the only way we can survive is through the love of our bodies. Even for those of us who have endured chattel slavery, even now, it is just as important for us to love our bodies, to love our flesh. Toni Morrison, if you haven't read Toni Morrison, like, Toni Morrison will become part of your Dharma practice if you let her. The way, particularly in Beloved, that we are being called into this transformational relationship with self, with body, with the flesh, and I like the word flesh. It reminds me of Cha. It reminds me of the Cha practice where we're offering our flesh over and over again in different composites, and arrangements. When I think about my flesh, yes, I'm thinking about the body, but I'm also thinking about the livingness of my body. I'm thinking about the cells and the organs, my organs and cells, and I'm thinking about fluid. I'm thinking about muscle and fat and bones. I'm thinking about energy, right? I'm thinking about the subtle energy body, right? That's in communication, that's in union with our physical body. To love our flesh, is to come home to the body, to come home to the physicality of who we are, right? And I think that's the basis of yoga, is to return back to return back to holding of the body. You know, holding our bodies within a gentle, kind, compassionate awareness. That gentle, compassionate, kind awareness is the space that holds all the ways our body manifests for us. You know, it holds the uniqueness of our bodies. You know, to come home to the body means that for some of us, we allow our hearts to break. And I've been doing a lot of work in my private practice around my body and around pleasure, around eroticism, which I may just fully detail in my next book. But like for me, doing this intensive work of learning or training to desire myself, that I am the one that I want at the end of the day, right? I'm the one that I always want. You know, there's a earnest, intense, clear hunger for my body. You know, and to move, through the world, and for some of us, we're very sensitive to how others are attracted to us. I have friends who, that's their thing, to be desired. They love that energy of galvanizing, which is one of the energies within Tantric Buddhism, galvanizing, to draw, to attract, right, to excite and to pull forth. And there are people that know who love that. They love being the object of desire. They get off on it. They experience a lot of energy from that. But for some of us, that's a really hard thing for us to deal with, to even hold in our practice to be desired. Because many of us actually don't believe that we have a right to be desired. Some of us don't believe that we're attractive enough, that we're, whatever, we don't have the right bodies, we're not interesting, we don't deserve the attention that we get from people that we assume is somehow better than us, more attractive, and so forth. And a practice that I've been really working with, for a couple of weeks is that I want, I want to start noticing the desire other people have for my body when I notice it. And when I notice that, I want to shift that energy around so that I maybe step into the experience of others who are desiring me, and I begin to participate in desiring myself from their perspective. Which is, it can be really complex or it can be really simple. Often it's really complex, but how do I begin to connect to touch into the desire others have for me and my body and my flesh, and using that as a catalyst to deepen love for my body? How do I begin to see myself in the same way others who love me and desire me see me? What would that be like for us to engage in? So even now, as I move through the practice, just move through this, I just naturally just begin to call in, my benefactors, and you can do the same thing. I begin to call on my benefactors, the beings who love me. As I'm trying to like imagine other people's desire for me, I begin to connect to their care for me at the same time. And I allow myself to really drink deeply from this desire that I'm imagining from others, as well as the care that I'm getting from my benefactors. And maybe when we go through the practice, we feel a lot of stuff coming up. We feel a lot of woundedness and heartbreak and trauma and resistance. And I wonder if you can just notice those thoughts, those narratives, and just hold them within this energy of care from your benefactors. Sometimes my wish is for me to want myself as much as others want me or need me. Just continuing with this, right? Just breathing deeply if you need to. Allow yourself to sit within this care from your benefactors along with this desiring, tuning into the desire from others. If you want to just go a little further in the practice, imagine that you're inhaling from the base of your spine, inhaling up the spine to the top of the head, and then exhaling down again into the base of the spine. Right, so this is a central channel breath, Uma breath. So breathing up and down the spine, which is the central channel. And this is a way that we start getting energy moving and circulating in throughout both the physical body and also the energetic body. Right. So as we continue that practice, I want to just add some chanting. I'm going to add Tara's mantra, Tara to Tara Ture Soha. You can chant along if you know it, or you can just kind of sit and listen. But with our chanting, just beginning to open up more energy. So we're going to start calling through the chanting the energy of the mother into the space. So we're going to infuse even more energy into what we're doing, to come back to this loving of our flesh, right? So, Tara today, so high, we have it in the chat box there, right? 두 자리 두레 소아 자레 두 자레 두레 소아 자레 두 자레 두레 소아 자레 두 자레 두레 So we'll begin to transition out of the practice. So letting go of all the visualizations and the reflections. Shifting our attention back down to the seat. Noticing the weight of our bodies. Making contact with the seat. Letting this experience of gravity take care of you. Just doing some gentle movements now to awaken the body. Some deep breaths to actually to get some stuck energy moving as well. All right. I'll open up the remainder of our time together for any questions that you may have. Any questions? I think one of the important things that that we work with, particularly when we get into this side of Dharma, which is the Tantric Vajrayana part, we're really interested in desire. I think in earlier traditions of Buddhism, desire becomes something that we avoid or we try to sterilize, but in the Tantric end of Buddhism, we're trying to actually embrace the energy of desire, which includes pleasure, which includes the erotic as well. We're using these energies to move through trauma, to move through woundedness, heartbrokenness, to move through grief. Yeah, the earth desiring us. Yeah, that's really beautiful. And connecting to the phenomenal world, how the phenomenal world is also desiring us, wanting us. No, we're not. It's not that things want to possess us. It's more like this desire from the phenomenal world is more of a desire wanting us to be ourselves, like to be our most authentic self. That's how I just experience desire from the phenomenal world. I'm being called to be myself, to be authentic, simple, complex, whatever it is. That's desiring to be myself. To share whatever pleasure I have out to all beings. We call that sympathetic joy practice, where we experience pleasure and then we send this energy out to other beings. The love and desire for self has to be fierce. It has to be a fierce tonight. I have a compliment, no question tonight, but your shirt and nails look amazing. Thank you. Um, I, it's a good day. It's a good period when my nails aren't chipping and everything. But yeah, it's been a while since I've gotten done. Actually, it's been a couple of weeks. So I've got my nails, but it's just still holding on. You should see my feet, but that's a whole nother thing we'll do later. That's the after hours um, talk. We'll do that. We'll do that if we do another Kumbh Mela. We'll do an after hours kind of talk there. Um, yeah. Yeah. The fierce love. The fierce love. The fierce love for self. The fierce care of the self. Um, and that's something too. And I know we're just about at time, but this is something that again, this is work that I'm having to do tonight. Well, tonight, to always. This is work that I'm always having to do for myself. It's like every day I'm trying to understand what love is. I'm trying to ground myself in love for myself, love for others. Getting back to the basics of the practice, the basic mechanics of what it means to do the work of liberation every day. And it's grounded in love for self. I can't really love other people and other beings and the phenomenal world if I'm not cultivating that love, that deep acceptance for myself. Um, Often, in terms of my more romantic relationships, I've begun to understand that it's hard for me to connect to the desire of others if I'm not connecting to the desire for myself first. I have to want me. And the more I want myself, the more I'm able to connect to the desire of others around me. Even if that desire is predatory, for instance, or wounding, it's again we're talking about energy. It's like we take that energy and we work with the energy, not with the intentions of the energy itself. Like energy is energy. What we're trying to do in Tantra is just get to the energy, this pure expression of energy itself. Um, so I can take the energy from others, particularly energy of objectifying me, for instance, that many of us struggle with. Like, yeah, someone may be objectifying me, but I can still take that basic energy of desire and use it to actually reaffirm my humanity. You know? Those are the kinds of things that we're doing in Tantra. We're getting to the energy itself. So we're not avoiding anything. This is what makes this path so tricky. We're not avoiding, we're going straight into. And being very skillful as possible as we can be. All right, dear ones, thank you so much for tuning in tonight. Next week we'll have a longer gathering and with Lama Justin. So thank you all so much. I dedicate the energy of our practice tonight to the liberation of all beings, that we all may get free as possible, as quickly as possible. Thank you all so much for your practice. And hopefully see you next week and other programs that we have between now and next week. Okay? Thank you, everyone.